Is this session happening on Friday? What's going on?
We don't know. On Monday, we thought we had talks in Istanbul.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, the Iranians said, nope, we're going to move those to Amman and talk only about nuclear issues. And today we were told the U.S. said, nope, we're not going to do that. And Special Envoy Witkoff and Mr. Kushner may be coming back home after a meeting in Qatar. So stay tuned. I think this is still moving around.
Is this part of the dance that you would expect, or is this unusual to see this all playing out in the open?
A little bit of the dance. It's what Iranians tend to do to keep folks off balance and that they can sort of take the initiative. I mean, this is gunboat diplomacy, as you mentioned. We've got, a carrier strike group. We are building up significant forces in the Middle East, and we are compelling, in many ways, Iran to the negotiating table. This is, they're trying to wrestle back a little of the initiative, I think.
Understood. Gunboat diplomacy. The fact of the matter is, in the end, this is going to be hashed out between Tehran and Washington, right? Do we need to have our neighbors at the table, or Iran's neighbors in this case?
So it's important to have those neighbors there. As we mentioned, there's a reason why the Saudis, the Qataris, the Emiratis aren't allowing their airspace to be used if there is a U.S. military strike. They're afraid of the regional spillover. So I think it's a strong sign that other region diplomats are there. Look, I don't think we can say it will always stay diplomacy. Diplomatic track. I think the Trump administration wants to see where this goes, but I also think they are keeping options available. This is a very unique time. Iran is weak. I think there is some searching to see if a real important deal can be secured at this moment.
Has the administration detailed what this deal would look like? Is it simply a promise to abandon the nuclear program?
Yeah, unclear. I mean, they've gone back to sort of the standard, which is no nuclear enrichment. Real tough limits
even for its own energy.
Correct. Yeah. I think they're really very tough on that line. They also want to add limits to Iran's ballistic missile program and really addressing ending support to those regional proxies. The Iranians have been very clear, and this has been part of the dance. They only want to focus on nuclear issues. And so what it seems, again, Axios is reporting doing the nuclear conversation one-on-one with the United States and then having the broader regional conversation about the ballistic missiles, the human rights abuses, and then the proxies.
But don't we know that stopping all enrichment is a non-starter for Iran, at least historically? That's when everybody walks away from the table, because they do use nuclear power for any number of uses beyond weapons. We're talking about the extreme enrichment that would be used for a nuclear weapon. Does this administration need to delineate there, or has Iran lost trust on that issue?
Well, I think we've lost trust that the Iranians are not transparent about their nuclear program. And as I said, I think this is the challenge. You put your finger on it. The Iranian regime will not give up its nuclear enrichment process. It believes it's for its own civilian purposes. And I think as long as this regime is in place, that will be their
I want to mention just quickly, if I can interrupt our conversation with a red headline on the terminal. This is breaking news right now. The Supreme Court will allow the new California voting map for the midterm elections. Remembering this is something that went to voters in an election not long ago, having been put forth by Gavin Newsom in Prop 50, the Supreme Court allowing the voting map for the midterms. As we spend time with Heather Conley from the AEI here in our Washington studio with eyes on Iran, if we get to the point where talks are exhausted, there are still a lot of questions about what the president's been briefed on and exactly how we would go at another strike, remembering we struck their underground nuclear compounds last year. Could we be in a situation where these are not classic military installations or targets that are being pursued by the military, rather people? Do we go after individuals in a way that Israel might?
Well, I think that's why it's been so difficult. We don't have clarity on the military objective, and I think the military has to prepare for every eventuality very robust. So regime change. So you're going after specific targets to decapitate the regime. Are we specifically looking at, again, going to ballistic missile sites? If we have to go back to some of the nuclear sites, there was some satellite imagery the last few days at Natanz in particular, a photo that showed that they were trying to harden some of those sites, anticipating perhaps that we'd be revisiting those. We don't know what the objective is. I think the president, if he chooses a military option, wants a clean, decisive strike, and that's just not going to be the case here. And this is what makes this decision really hard, because there's so much messy spillover effect, and I believe Iran will take very decisive action against U.S. forces in the region and of course, Israel. So we really have to be prepared not only for what the strike we'd want to deliver if that option is chosen, but then how do you defend the region? And that's why all those assets are coming into place, THAAD, Patriots, and others.
Is that Al Udeid in Qatar? Where would they target Americans in the region?
Well, of course, you'd go to the biggest locations. That's what the Iranians did during last June's 12-day war. So again, I think, and it was a little bit more scripted. I think they weren't trying to escalate. If this regime is put in a corner, would they really do something highly irrational and illogical and really accelerate? That's what you have to be careful of.
What happened yesterday? We just shot down an Iranian drone that was, we're told, acting aggressively or somehow targeting the USS Lincoln. This is the center of the carrier strike group. It was shot down. The drone was shot down by an American F-35. Is that an act of war?
Well, it's testing boundaries. And I think this is where I think you're seeing Tehran demonstrating that it will go very far. And I think it's sending a message to the White House going, you don't want this mess. So it also activity around a tanker that would have been supplying U.S. bases with fuel. So we had two acts. This is why this is so dangerous. This is why we want it to go back into a diplomatic track. But the stakes are pretty high here, Joe.
Was that an opportunity, though, for the U.S. in our remaining moment here to prove our ability to enact force protection, that it doesn't matter which boat or which base you're coming after, there'll be an F-35 waiting for you?
Right. I mean, I think that's exactly it. Both were testing each other's boundaries, and this is where you have to clearly and decisively deter that behavior, and the military demonstrated that it will take those steps for sure.
Is that, in fact, a bigger flotilla, if we can use that term, a bigger armada than we had in Venezuela? Is the president right about that?
I believe the buildup is much more significant. Again, we have much greater basing facilities in that region, but yes, I mean, you have to move in. This is where we weren't too worried about Venezuelan missile capabilities. You have, again, ballistic missiles. You've got to prepare for that.